I'm here with, right now, I'm Tom O'Brien with Neighborhood Connections, and I'm here with Dawn Arrington from ioby, and Shay O'Neill from Bumper Crop Farm is dealing with some technical issues, and Gordon Martin is will be here shortly.
Well, Tom, we could get started, and then do you have slides to show at the beginning?
Yeah, the slides are related to what people are going to talk about, but why don't we start off with we can start with the genesis of this project and what's been going on with that, and then once Shay and Gordon get on, they can talk more about what they're doing. So why don't I start off with just a brief introduction. Thanks, Kathy. This is about Grassroots response to COVID-19 and the pandemic. And there's been a host of grassroots efforts all over the city of Cleveland and also in the city of East Cleveland and throughout Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga counties, people doing amazing work. Residents really taking the lead, and very small nonprofits and small faith-based organizations coming together to address COVID-19, the pandemic. And they've been doing it in a lot of different ways. So Neighborhood Connections started offering a grants program a few months ago, back in April, where we offered grants up to $5,000 for grassroots groups to really start addressing COVID-19 in a variety of ways. So some of the folks you'll hear from today worked on food access and healthy foods, others on education and getting support for educational supplies and like laptops, hotspots, things like that, creating pods. And then one person you'll hear from today talked about supporting neighbors with their pets, right? Because a lot of people have lost their jobs or income's tight. And so how can neighbors support their neighbors and their pets by food and other supplies that they may need? So we're going to talk a little bit about those briefly, but I want to introduce our one panelist who's able to sign in, and that is Dawn Arrington. So Dawn, I'm going to bring up the slides, and if you want to, let me just get to the ones on ioby, and if you could talk a little bit about ioby, we can. Let me just scroll down to that first, and then we can start there. So Dawn, if you want to take it away with just a brief little bit about yourself and what ioby does. Let me get down to your slide.
Sure. I'm just trying to figure out how to make it bigger so I can actually see it. Okay. I can see a little bit here. Sorry if I'm a little squinty, but as Tom said, my name is Dawn Arrington, and I am the City Action Strategist for Cleveland, Ohio. I don't know what's in here, Tom. Did you put all of them in here?
They're all in there. Yep. So now I'm
okay.
Yep.
All right, so ioby stands for In Our Backyards, which is the polar opposite of NIMBY, or Not in My Backyard. So a lot of times our project leaders have ideas, have things that they want to get done in their neighborhoods, and we're all too used to hearing not in my backyard. You want to do what? You want to erect this? You want to have these people or those people there and doing what? And ioby takes this approach, or has this idea. Our mission is for everyday people to be able to have power and leadership over what happens in their communities. So this is a picture from 2 years ago of our staff. We have had some changes since then, but yeah, that's who we are. We can go to the next slide, Tom. So ioby is a crowdfunding platform. We're not much different than, say, GoFundMe or Kickstarter or something like that, but we are a nonprofit. We are focused on neighbor-led, neighborhood-based change. We also and we're way more awesome than, say, GoFundMe or Kickstarter because we're a 501c3. So we are a national nonprofit, and so we are in all 50 states plus the U.S. territories. And we can act as your fiscal sponsor for ioby projects only. So, like, we can't act as a pass-through for projects that are not crowdfunding with us, but we can be your fiscal sponsor for the projects that you're crowdfunding for on ioby. Next slide. And this is a little bit about our impact here in Cleveland. And I'm so sorry, I can't really actually see. Oh, here we go. So we've raised, in the 4.5 years that we've been here in Cleveland, we've raised over, we meaning the community, small donations, one at a time for these projects. Over $800,000 on Cleveland-based or Cuyahoga County-based, that's more my area, projects, and over 300 have fundraised with us. And as you can see, the median donation size there is only $50. So we, hi, Pastor Martin. So we have lots of projects that have raised a bunch of money. All right, and so just down here very quickly, I want to talk about a couple COVID projects that happened in the beginning of COVID-19. So we have one that took place over on the west side. It started out as one neighborhood, but it wound up being three. Not Clark Fulton, I'm sorry. Ohio City, Old Brooklyn, and I think Tremont or maybe Detroit Shoreway were the neighborhoods where these concerts started taking place. And it's these front porch concerts to promote community connectivity and to promote well, not to promote social isolationism, but to combat social isolationism during COVID. So they invited folks to come out on their front porch, ride your bike to the end of the street, and just come and listen to some classical music for a little while at the end of your street. The one in the middle here, I believe, Cleveland Rocks campaign, and so some of the hardest hits or more vulnerable community of folks that we saw early on suffering through COVID are local musicians, local artists, because they're in a gig economy. And if music venues or restaurants or weddings are canceled, they can't perform and they can't make money. And so this was a relief fund that was started by the Cleveland Rocks folks over in Collinwood, if you're familiar with the Beachland Ballroom. And so this was literally just mutual support, instant relief for folks who have lost income. And then that last one over there is Meals with Double Benefits. So it was a group of residents in Ohio City, responders at the hospital on West 25th, I think that's Lutheran Hospital, and they were purchasing the food that they were providing the meals with from restaurants along the West 25th Street corridor. So hence the double benefits. So supporting small and locally owned businesses and feeding first responders. And then just a little bit in order, if you have an idea, if there's something that you want to do and you want to get it done, and you want to get it done in your backyard, you can reach out to me and you can submit an idea. It takes, Pastor Martin has done this before, it takes like 30 seconds, it takes like a minute to just fill out your idea. You don't have to just give, just fill out this idea form, tell us what you're trying to do, how much money you need, when you need it by, and a sentence or two about what it is. And again, you don't have to have all of the answers. And my job is to coach you through all of that and help you figure out like the feasibility of it. There is my contact information. It's dawn@ioby.org, 216-930-4030. It is best to probably submit that idea, because even if you call me and you want to tell me about your idea, I'm going to say, hey, did you submit that idea form? Because that's the first step. That's how we get to know each other. I can read it, and we take our and it makes it easier for me to coach. So that's about ioby in a very quick, brief way.
Thank you, Dawn. So I'm going to go to, thanks for that introduction. We're a little bit off here, changing a little bit because we had some technical difficulties at the beginning. This page here, you can see, I'll show a little bit later, but we're going to go to Gordon Martin right now. And Gordon, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now, and with Prince of Peace, and just a little bit about your project and what that was.
Hi. Okay, yeah, my name is Gordon Martin. I have an organization, Prince of Peace Outreach and Deliverance Ministries, is otherwise known as POPS. We're on Cleveland's west side in the Stockyards neighborhood. And we basically what I call community service ministry, that is helping people with their basic direct needs like food and clothing, furniture sometimes. And so when the pandemic came about and was in full effect, we have a food pantry. And, so what we started doing was porch delivery boxes. And in that, we know people, with isolation and having to stay home, were becoming very dependent emotionally on their pets. And we also noticed that, so many people being out of work or not being able to get out, there was a great need for pet food. We saw a lot of pets eating the food that we were bringing for the humans, right? Eating the tuna fish. I saw a cat with a pork chop. And, so that let me know that there was a for pet food. And then also, with the summer temperatures in the summer, that brings about fleas and ticks, which is very important. And if people can't get out, to the vet or to different stores, products for their pets, then that's also a great need. So we were able to get from their COVID-19 relief grants. We partnered with Pet Supplies Plus over in Ridge Park Square, and also with Neighborhood Pets and with Clark Feed and Seed. Got flea and trick for pets. Pet Supplies Plus supplied us with cat and dog food, dry and canned, to distribute that to the residents of the Stockyard area and some of the surrounding neighborhoods. So as you can see, they were all different kinds of people. Some of them shut in, some people that are ill, and we just noticed how happy they were to keep their pets with nutritious food, keep their pets healthy, how important that was to them, and just emotionally that somebody had thought about, because their pets are part of their family. And, at these times when people can't get out, be visited by their family members, it was very important to them to be able to provide for their pets and not have to worry about what their pets were going to eat. Very successful program. We hope to continue it, and
great.
It means a lot to the residents.
And thanks,
here.
Dawn. So tell me a little bit about, you are both,
So
Gordon,
thank you,
you're on
neighbor.
the west side, Denison in the Stockyards, and Dawn, you're in the Buckeye neighborhood where you live. Tell me a little bit about your initial reaction to COVID-19 when that first happened? What, you both have been working in the community. How did you adjust to COVID-19 in terms of what you were doing, in terms of your day to day, both not personally, but just your work in the community, and what changes happened as a result of that? So you told a little bit just now, but Dawn, how did that change what you saw coming in through ioby? Dawn, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me or what's going on. Gordon, why that one? A little more on that.
Okay, well, with us, of course, we right away recognized that people wouldn't be able to come to the drop-in center. So we had to make the adjustment of that we had people instead of people coming to get the food. What we did was we posted our number on the door in case people came by, and immediately started giving out information for people to call us and leave a message so that we could make sure that we set up an appointment to do a porch drop off to them. And also PPE, such as mask and hand sanitizer, and just general things to keep them safe and clean. We also posted visited stores in the neighborhood, the convenience marts, the gas stations, and made sure people were using masks as much as we possibly could, because that's very important. A lot of the elderly people around here, surprisingly enough, don't have or don't even watch television, so they weren't informed. So as we were doing the porch deliveries, we made sure that people were informed and had basic information about how to stay safe. We even started doing some light shopping, especially for elderly people or people that were disabled. So we had to respond. It really affected the way that we operated. Instead of operating here at the center, we had to be more aware and more effective outside, right, and reach out more so.
And how was that for you personally, with like worrying about the virus, and you personally, what precautions did you take in that regard?
Well, with handling things through the initial phone call actually made it a lot easier, because we were able to take time out and speak with people and get a great understanding about, not having any contact with them, letting them know that we would be food or whatever items on the porch, and we would call them before we got to there. We'd call them when we get there and let them know that they're to wait until we get back into the car before they come outside, and just letting them know that the importance of that, of not having any contact for their safety, and keeping them comfortable about it and not.
Okay, I think we have lost Gordon there. You're going a little digital on us. So I'm going to turn it to Shay. Shay, can you hear me now? And
yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Great. Welcome. So
thanks.
Talk a little bit about
very important.
I'm sorry, what were you saying, Tom?
Do you want to talk a little bit about your project with Bumper Crop Farm and how that started, and a little bit backstory on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bumper Crop Farm started in this May of 2020. It is 100% a response to COVID, but it is a 1 acre farm, completely voluntarily run, and is a community farm. We're located right off of Woodland Avenue, kind of between Larchmere and Woodhill Homes. And so, we are 100% voluntarily run, and we call ourselves a community farm because we You know, we have community plots. We have about 15 community plots where they were first come, first served, and allowed anyone to try gardening for the first time or to garden where they didn't have space at their home or apartment. We provided soil, seeds, plants, as well as tools and any other educational help that they need. Had any questions or concerns that we could address. We also have a pay what you can farm stand that allows people to access fresh and nutritious food at any cost that they can afford. Or, you know, we also donate quite a bit of food. I think we produced about 6,000 pounds of produce this year, and about 20% of that has been donated. We have a CSA share that is completely donation based, and we also have some education avenues through volunteering. We would teach and direct any volunteers that came. We also had the YOU program, which is the Youth Opportunity Unlimited, that came and worked with us through the month of July. And so it's a multifaceted and directional 1 acre farm that's, we're trying to utilize the space as much as possible and incorporate as many community members and organizations into the farm as we can.
Great. Well, thank you. And we have some pictures we can show a little later. I'm not going to go to those now just because we've had some issues around the technical side of things. So I'm going to open it up for all three of you to talk. Gordon, Dawn, and Shay, and just have a conversation on a few questions. So one of the questions I have is around, connecting with people. Some of you, I know, Gordon, you've been a long-time member of the neighborhood and Stockyards, a resident there, and also doing things. And Dawn, you've seen a lot of different projects across the city. Shay, I know you're kind of new, I think, to Woodland Hills, right? Is that
I am,
correct?
yes, sir.
So I was just wondering, how do you reach out? How do you connect with people? How do you know what they want? Like with this, like, how do you know? How do you get to meet people and start connecting with them? And where have you seen that work really well? I know Gordon he has long-standing relationships there, but he talked a little bit before about reaching out by phone and front porches and things like that. But where else have you seen that? And how do you know what people want to respond to the needs during COVID?
I'd just like to offer, when we're talking about fundraising, a lot of people think that fundraising is maybe in bad taste, or it's not something that you should be doing during COVID. And one of the things that I very early on is that if the project or the thing that you were trying to do was important before COVID, it's probably triple or quadruple as important during this time. So usually the ways that I connect with people, even in my own neighborhood. So I don't live that far from where Bumper Crop is you can't be afraid to, say hello to your neighbors. It usually starts with, something as simple as that. I always find that people, especially kids, are super curious. So if you're outside and you're doing something, somebody's going to come up and ask you hey, what's going on? And you can't be afraid to share what's happening. And then usually especially now in COVID, I kind of hate that term, but during COVID, we're relying on those relationships that that you've already built prior to a pandemic. And that's how you're able to actually get stuff done. So it's not necessarily you're organizing around an issue, you're building community, and then when things like this happen, the community comes together in very surprising ways.
How about Gordon and Shay? Do you have anything to add to what Dawn said? Or
Yeah, I mean, I with Bumper Crop Farm, I think one of our biggest community building events was our cookouts. So we traditionally, we were going to do one in June, but it was, it was COVID friendly. We were able to do everything in a good manner that followed all of the regulations. But it was such a successful event that instead of just doing one, we decided to do a monthly, and that allowed people to come to the farm, see what we were doing, participate in it through farm tours or through having or coming through and listening to some live music, or just sitting down in the orchard area and just having some free food and enjoying the space. And so, we were also lucky being off of Woodland. It's a high trafficked road, and so we had people stopping all the time just because they would see that somebody was there, or they just wanted to check out what was happening. And so we'd have people walk by that would just walk in, and we had people stop at the side of the road and walk in. And so having that open door policy as well really helped us out from the get-go, and offering as many farm tours as we could and just getting as many people interested as we could. And as Don was saying, like incorporating the kids. I mean, if the kids are having a blast at the farm, then the parents want to stay there longer. And so trying to have that the farm accessible for kind of all generations.
That's great. And so you had a lot of in-person things. What did you do? Like, were you nervous about, people getting too close to each other? Or did you require, what precautions did you put in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once again, the farm started in May, and so that was just in the midst of the pandemic. And so anytime someone came onto the farm, it was, masks were mandatory. We would try to stay 6 feet apart at all times, and constantly washing our hands. And then with the farm stands, not allowing consumers to come and touch the produce, and same with the cookouts, not allowing people to touch the food. We would have people serve for them, and just having a constant reminder that we want this to be a safe place, and so that we have to create that environment that welcomes and really creates that in a COVID kind of world right now.
Great, thanks. And how about you, Gordon? What you went door to door, you call people, front porches, you have a center. How did you engage people? You have to unmute your mic, Gordon. Gordon, you have to unmute your mic. Okay, we're not hearing him. So let me go to another question. In terms of getting a team together, what are some ways you bring a team together to do this? I mean, sometimes, there's the idea of the one person show, but that usually isn't sustainable, right? I mean, people burn out and struggle. What recommendations would you say to finding other people with similar interests? What Dawn, do you have any? Gordon or Shay?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
We tell people to build a team. So perfect example, like with Bumper Crop Farm, the first person that I talked to from Bumper Crop was actually Hollie. And so I've met her on the phone. She had an idea, and one of the things that I even coached her on, I was like, listen, if you want to go fast, go by yourself, but if you want to go far, go with a team. The Julia de Burgos Hispanic Cultural Center on the west side, and they got a grant from the Neighborhood Connections fund, but they also had a crowdfunding campaign recently for there's a parsonage in the location where they are, which was an old church, and so they did a crowdfunding campaign a few years ago, and it wasn't quite successful. But also, part of the reason that it wasn't as successful is because there was like one person trying to do the campaign. So they raised something like $600. Well, they just did a new campaign, and it was completely different because like they had a team, there were more staff members, there was more community buy-in, and they said, this is this thing that we want to do. They did like an open house for the house while the weather was in good condition. And so like it was team building first. Again, getting to know your neighbors, getting to know people who are who have similar interests, and then it's like, hey, can we do this next thing? Or can we do this other thing? Or what's the next step? You know, what do we do after that? So, you know, team building is crucial and important, and really, it really brings people to the table and into the process that have traditionally been left out of the process. So I'm always down for, you know, building a team, and also being aware of your own personal capacity. Because I may not be very good at, say, leveraging social media, but there's somebody out there that is. And so if I can, you know, get them on board and they can participate in a meaningful way to them, then, you know, that's just one more person that's a part of the process. That's one more person who's going to go out and leverage their gifts, as Tom likes to say, their gifts of the heart, the hands, or the head. And they're participate. They're gonna like it's gonna be really important to them, and they're just gonna like scream from the mountaintops, hey, this thing is awesome to me, meaning, and so here's how I found meaning, and here's how you can find meaning. So building a team, having a team, even if they're not necessarily like official members, but they're still participating, that is like that's like crucial. And this time around, Julio de Burgos they over fundraised in like 2 weeks compared to the first time when they did their campaign and barely, you know, scratched the surface. So having a team can make a world of difference in your projects and what you want to get done in your neighborhoods.
Great. And Shay, do you want to offer anything on that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think also in having a team, I mean, as you said, you can't do a one-man show. It's not long-term sustainable. And having a team that is constantly growing. I mean, at no point is your team exactly where it needs to be. You can always have more opinions, different expertise, and you can always have more collaboration. So at no point have you fulfilled your team. It's a constant effort to build and to improve the people who are invested in any project, and to know that the more the merrier, and the farther, I think the more people involved, the farther you will go, and have more of a long-term effect.
Yeah. And I would add to both of what you said is like in a pandemic like this, and also like with sustainability, right? This is Sustainable Cleveland, with crises coming through, you know, environmental issues that are arising because of climate change. Knowing people in the community is so important, that social capital, because once a crisis hits, it's a little bit harder to, like with this pandemic, to meet new people and to build a team. So having relationships already in place, I think, is so important to get started, and to start that mutual aid, right? That mutual support of each other, so you have a few people already in line and ready to go, who you have trust with and relationships with. And I know Gordon is having some technical issues, but he really is immersed in the Stockyards neighborhood, right? And that's why for him, I think he could mobilize really quickly. You know, you, Shay, have really focused on your project, food and social capital, social relationships, and Gordon with pets and food, and food for adults and other supplies. What about PPE? Where have you found PPE at the grassroots level? You know, personal protective equipment. I know at the beginning of this pandemic, it was really hard to find things, right? A lot of people are still making their own masks, you know, making their own hand sanitizer, some of the others. But you know, where is there a resource or anywhere that some of the grassroots groups have found to find PPE?
I don't know about Shay, but I know Tom, we have directed folks to use the PPE resource that Neighborhood Connections has. I've used it myself with my comic book distribution, and it put like 200 for folks during a food distribution. So that's just one way of thinking like outside of the box. Like maybe you have a niche of something. And Tom, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about like that particular access to those particular supplies. Because like if you go on like Amazon, or if you're trying to do it, you know, on your own, sometimes it can be like daunting and really hard, and to know like what's best or what's a good price, or you know, figuring out how to like pull resources to be able to get things like masks or hand sanitizer. So if you could talk a little bit more about that, that would be great. But I will say that it is like I always try to think of like what's the next thing that you can do, or that is adjacent to whatever it is that you're doing. Because I think that that's sort of how Gordon got started with the pet food, is like he was doing food distributions and understanding that like there were folks in his neighborhood that had like emotional support animals, you know, not like the peacock that comes on the airplane, but literally like these are folks that are, you know, living you know, in tough situations, and even tougher situations in COVID. And but these pets are bringing value and support to them, and they need to be fed and taken care of just as much as the humans. So, you know, it's the next logical step. So.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't see.
I'll talk a little about that at the end.
Oh, yeah, no.
How about Shay? How about you with PP?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I mean, PPEs were just so difficult to come across, and the ones you could were, you know, outrageous and expensive. And so for some of the community events that we wanted to hold, they were crucial. And the organization Heal, Healthy Eating, Active Living, have been a huge support with us, or for us, and we've collaborated a lot. And they've been able to donate quite a bit, including some masks and related resources. And so they, for us and for the community, are a huge organization that we were able to rely pretty heavily on.
Great. And Gordon, welcome back. We were asking a question about PPE and where did you secure PPE, especially in the early days of the pandemic.
Okay, well, we of course got some of our PPE from Neighbor Up, and also one thing that we've really over the years have encouraged in our neighborhood is that everyone is a philanthropist, right? So the residents here have really that, and we have this great network of people and residents, and also able to access they it as a whole community. So owner or a business owner finally gets to some hand sanitizer, and then he'll let people know so that we can get together, put some money, quantities of it, large quantities. And that together with able to give fortune of number of PPE products to keep everyone pretty much equipped. And so that's worked well with encouraging people and about philanthropy, you know, because that was immediately dependent on, or well, we don't have a lot of us, then people start thinking about I can give $5 in church every Sunday. I can give $5 this cost, right? And so if they are, and that helps to build things and helps to support. There's
Yeah.
so a lot of it comes through that type of mentality.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and neighborhoods have tons of assets, right? Tons of
And like I said,
assets.
Neighbor Up is always there to help.
Yeah.
And we've always kept the neighbors very informed about, with Neighbor Up, the programs that are.
Great. Thanks, Gordon. So we have a question here from Marina Marquez. This is for you,
and
Don.
let them know that
we have a
there's
group of
resources right here, and that as that's called as a resource. Right?
Oh, there's a delay.
So there's a question for you, Don, here from Marina Marquez about a group of teens on East 131st at the library who are interested in acquiring an ice cream shop. I know exactly where that is, located on East 131st in Mount Pleasant, to open and operate. What are your recommendations for them to crowdsource?
Oh, yeah. So being teens or teenage is not an issue. We work with all different types of leaders. Obviously, there would probably need to be an adult who's like a supervisor, but if the teens are the leaders, even better, honestly, because it kind of goes back to that, nothing for us without us, nothing about us without us kind of mentality. And so that's what ioby is, at least in my head. It's in our backyards, meaning that if these kids want to they see an opportunity that they want to take, then they should absolutely take it. The big thing is let's start with submitting that idea. I'm happy to virtually sit down with the group of teens and talk about what it is that they're planning on doing. Again, crowdfunding for good or for a mission is a broad scope. So these are kids who are in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. I know exactly what ice cream shop they're talking about. Hopefully it's Coneheads. That would be, because I love that place. But if that's yes, Coneheads, we used to go there all the time. Actually, I went to high school with the owner's son. So, but like it's a neighborhood staple. It's something that they've identified that they want to do, and economic development, jobs training, kids taking and repurposing spaces. All of that is a community good. There's a community benefit to that, and so like we're here for that. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to a yes. There are so many times, especially with kids, that folks are told no for whatever reason, for various reasons. They are told no about something that they want to do. Our goal is to get you to that yes and for you to decide how that yes looks. So absolutely, please submit the idea. I'll reach back out to you. We can schedule some time. I'm happy to again talk to your students, and let's bring back Coneheads for real.
Thanks. Question about, and people can put other questions in here. Marina, thank you for that question. How do you stay, healthy and spiritually, mentally, emotionally during this crisis, while also doing a lot of work on the front lines? You're both out there doing things. What do you do to keep yourself, feeling good?
Yeah, so I think for us, just the community has really kind of backed a lot of our project, and I think that in itself has given us such a drive to want to be there, and so that it's helped us out with spiritually feeling, even though we're exhausted and we're putting in a lot of hours in, it's keeping us wanting to be there at all times, and it's keeping us like happy, and just seeing the people that come through the farm and seeing people in the area that are just happy and thrilled that it's there, and just seeing their smiles has given us a lot of push to move forwards, and to see kind of what the potentials are for bumper crop farm in the future. And then just staying healthy. It's all about, we're lucky that our front lines requires us to be outside and and get our hands dirty, and to really dig in the dirt, which is it's good for a person. I mean,
Therapeutic,
yeah, I mean, it allows you to just do go back to nature. And it's helped a lot of our volunteers who are in very stressful situations, just to come and relax and do whatever they'd want to do, whether that's weeding or whether that's just sitting under an apple tree, or any combination. And I think that is kind of it's been the biggest kind of push for us, is seeing how a small 1-acre farm can really impact the surrounding community, and then the far-reaching aspects of the community as well. And then just staying proactive. I mean, we know, washing hands and things like that are very important. So making sure that, the kids who come through also do that, and just everyone who's involved in the project just knows that is it's imperative, and it's good for both ourselves, but for our neighbors and anyone that we come in contact with.
Okay, great. And Dawn, what do you do? What do you do to keep yourself fulfilled and just feeling good to get out there?
It really starts with valuing the idea of radical self-care, turning off, saying no, taking a step back, but valuing that in other people. Meaning, there are some, I tell people, there are no like emergency. Like, this is it's not necessarily a sprint. It's a marathon. It takes time. You're building a campaign, you're talking to people, and that can take a lot out of you. And so, I am constantly reminding folks to, sorry, but I am constantly reminding folks to mind their own personal capacity. Again, build a team, because you don't want to do. And I take that seriously I am the Cleveland office. I am just one person. And so some radical self-care, and like, just managing how people communicate with me, and, and I'm here for you, but I also have children and a husband and a dog and a cat, and, and myself to take care of. So, I just remind other folks to take care of them, and then, and make no excuses for taking care of myself. And I think that be like, I forgot who used to say it, take care of yourselves and each other. That is my, take care of myself, get enough sleep, drink enough water, go outside on sunnier days than today. And even on rainy days like this, just go outside and get some fresh air. And but take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
Great. And Gordon, what do you do? Like, you're out in the community, you're doing a lot out there. What do you do to take care of yourself?
Make sure I get enough rest, make sure I social distance, and always wear my mask, carry hand sanitizer, take a lot of me time, to replenish myself, learn how to just say no. Everybody's emergency is not my emergency. And just remember that I come from, I have to focus on myself and my family first before I can go out and do anything for anybody else. Make sure, their home is okay. And my health has to be okay before I can worry about anybody else's health. That's both physically and emotionally. And just really focus on myself so that I can go out and do a good job.
Great, thanks. And one question I just want to touch on before we leave, we have about 8 minutes left, is virtual world, right? So a lot of what we've done, we've heard today, some in-person gatherings with physical distancing, neighborhood adapted, and your grassroots efforts adapted to the virtual world, or have they? Have they not? Right? Is that, or where have you seen it adapted? Don, you've talked, about some education things that have been funded or other projects. Have you adapted to that as some of these in your grassroots work, in your neighborhood work?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I had to adapt just personally, for work, is I'm not allowed to meet with people face to face right now. So all of my meetings have to come either on the phone or through text message or video conference. And I realized that there's a lot of people who don't know how, things like Zoom or what reuse is. A lot of the adaptation comes in patience, honestly, self-patience, and learning these things so I can help other people troubleshoot them, so I can actually help them. What I've seen happen in a lot of projects are, even in my own project, so my project is about distributing comic books throughout my neighborhood. And so but I was doing it at corner stores and barbershops and where people would congregate, at rec centers and things like that. All of that way with COVID. So it was just I found people like Pastor Martin, who I know are doing things like food giveaways. And so it was here's 200 comic books. And, put them out. We're going to be doing a trunk or treat instead of in a church parking lot on Halloween. So we've got rules set up. We're buying those little gripper handle thingies to be able to socially distance and hand kids their candy, one way in, one way out. Everybody has to ask, or they're, it's a good thing. Halloween. So I'm making those adjustments that way, but still getting the work done. But one of the things is relying on those relationships that we talked about earlier that we built, and taking those relationships and figuring out other alternative ways to still get the work done, because again, it's still important. My issue was literacy, and that didn't go anywhere because of COVID. As a matter of fact, it's probably even more prevalent because people are experiencing social isolationism, or not having connectivity, or having ways to entertain themselves because they can't go out anymore. So, it's about leveraging relationships and, being nimble and having to move in and out of traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just got a note from Marina with the library saying, send clients to the library to use computers and Wi-Fi to meet with others virtually. They can assist. So that's great. The Cleveland Public Library. Great neighborhood. Gordon, have you used a lot of virtual meetings in your work, or?
Unfortunately, no. As you could see in a lot of the photos from the pet food giveaway, there's so many people that are isolated. And so I really have to manage very carefully. When I get to their homes, they want to tell me. I'm usually the only person that they see. So they want to tell me everything. So I have to be very careful and, like I said, just distance myself. So, the whole virtual world has not really been helpful for me, and I can't really figure out how to fit it in to what I do. Being in ministry, just that they need that personal touch, but at the same time, I have to think of myself, my own personal health. So it's been a difficult decision and a difficult journey.
Yeah. And Shay, do you want to add anything, or?
Yeah,
Chris?
just quickly. So, just the nature of Holly and I's kind of farming background. We're both not very technologically savvy, but to move forward in kind of the world that we live in now, it's a extremely useful tool that we will begin to incorporate as we move forward with Bumper Crop Farm. We will have to do a lot of meetings through Zoom or other platforms, and we understand that that's the next progression, and use that resource to better the in-person, the small and very infrequent in-person meetings. So just incorporate it as much as we can, and to help us facilitate and move forward.
Great, thanks. So I just want to tell you a little bit. Our website, Neighbor Up CLE, the greatest asset of the people in your neighborhood. And so, as Gordon has said, and Shay and Don, the people have the answer and have the connections in many cases. But if you do need some financial support, or if you do need some matching funds through ioby, there's a lot out there. And currently, Neighborhood Connections is offering a couple of different options. One is grants up to $5,000 for grassroots groups in Cleveland, East Cleveland, and throughout Cuyahoga, Lake, and Geauga counties for grassroots initiatives. So you can get on our website, neighborupcle.org, to find that. We also have matching funds through ioby, matching funds up to $3,000 for projects that are less immediate. And then the final thing is, as Don mentioned before, Neighborhood Connections, the Neighbor Up Network, has set up hubs around the city. We have 4 of them where groups of people can go for PPE, masks, hand sanitizer, cleaning products, things like that. You have to sign up for it. It'll be on our website shortly. We've been piloting it with some of our grant recipients. So our time is up. I do want to thank you all for one, sticking with us through the challenges with technology, and I really want to thank our 3 guests here today. Don Arrington from ioby. Let's give it up for Don. Gordon Martin from Prince of Peace Outreach and Deliverance Ministries. And he's got a beautiful hat on there. He's got the only one. That's the only Neighborhood Connections baseball hat. And Shay O'Neill from Bumper Crop Farm. He as well. So let's give it up for Shay. And I thank you all for joining us today, and I wish you all a good day. Take care.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.